Get caught in a net with Annette. For your mind, body, and soul. Get caught in a net with Annette. It's your intellectual radio show. Here to inspire you and encourage you to be your very best. Get caught in a net with Annette.
You are now tuned in to Mind, Body, and Soul with Annette, where your hosts, Annette Harris, analyze intriguing life questions and concerns, such as, do Christians suffer from mental illness? Have you wondered why they act abnormal? Or you may ask, what is really going on in their minds? Do you need Annette? Well, keep listening for a biblical understanding of the psychology of the mind.
Hey guys, welcome to another wonderful segment of Mind, Body, and Soul with Annette. I'm your host, Annette Harris. It is brought to you by GetCaughtInANet Incorporated. And I am so grateful to be here on this afternoon. It is, I always say that because then that means I'm alive and well, and the Lord has blessed me to see another day. Now, before we get started, of course, let me go to the Lord in prayer. Lord, we thank you for all things. We thank you for this wonderful day that you've blessed us to see. We thank you for who you are and how you are. We are dealing with different things down here on this earth, oh God, but we appreciate you and how you are bringing us through, and you're giving us the hope and the confidence in you. And we ask that you would get the glory out of this session and everything we go to say and do. In Jesus' name we pray. And the opening scripture that I normally like to quote, which is the basis of this particular broadcast, is Hosea 4:6. The first part of it states, my people are destroyed for lack of knowledge. Because thou hast rejected knowledge, I will also reject thee. And again, we are grateful to be here on today. I always say, if you see my face around 12 noon on a Wednesday, that means it is time for you to come on and get caught in a net. We will not do you any harm over here, only good, only good. And I would like to encourage you that once you come in to the live feed, we're on my Facebook page, Annette Get Caught in a Net. Would you please do me a huge favor and click that share button, click the share button, tag individuals into this live feed so that they will be reminded that we are on and they will be able to participate with us on today. You can also listen to us on my YouTube channel. If you go to YouTube and type in Get Caught in the Net, Incorporated, you will hear us there. A shout out to Earl Winfrey over Intellectual Radio, which is where Mind, Body, and Soul is housed. And he actually uploads the audio portion. At the end of the segment, we will upload the video portion so you will see it there as well. Also, I am going to have it on Instagram very shortly. It will be live over there as well. So there are 3 different ways that you can listen to us and watch us on today. And we don't want you to miss a beat. You may see in my presence in the virtual house a guest that you've seen already. And yes, she is back. We're excited. She is back. Dr. Wiley is back with us on today. Did you know that today is National Read Across America Day? I think I got that title right. I was calling this something else, Dr. Wiley, but it's National Read Across America Day. And it's so important. And it is something because when I came across, they have different months and different awareness months and all of that. When I saw that, I'm like, oh my gosh, okay, I need to get Dr. Wiley back on here for that particular day because when we talked with her the first time, actually, I think she started us out at the beginning of this year, the first segment of Mind, Body, and Soul this year. And we were talking about her and, her background. She's the teacher's teacher. She's an educator, that is of great excellence. And she has such a desire to make sure that our children, and not only our children, but the parents as well, are equipped. And so I said, let me reach out to her because we were talking about her coming back anyway. I said, this is perfect to have her back on. I see you over there on Instagram, Radio Love. Thank you so much for joining us on today. I think that's Mr. Montgomery, if I'm not mistaken. I appreciate you, sir, a broadcaster in his own right. And let me announce some of you that are on here. I see Valencia. Thank you for coming in, Buddy Gill. Brandy is on. Karen is on. Ava Perkins, thanks for coming in. I appreciate it. Make sure you guys click that share button. There are less names than numbers I see. So if you go ahead and just type in a hi, I will be able to say hi to you. So I am going to right now turn it over to Dr. Wiley because she has a certain thing that she likes to do before we get into our particular interview on today. So I'm going to turn it straight over to her. First, I'm going to ask you, how are you doing?
I'm doing excellent. Excited to be here again, like the kid in the candy store. Should I say I'm at Disney World again, twice in 1 year?
Yes, twice in 1 year, right? Yeah.
Yes.
Well, I'm so glad. I'm glad you consented, and I get energy from her, guys. I really do. She excites me, and when in everything that she does, and she encourages me myself even to read more. And it's a good thing. Books are not outdated. They're still important. So, Dr. Wiley, turn it over to you for you. What do you want to start us off with?
Thank you, Annette. I'll start us off with an educational prayer. Dear God, creator of the universe, I ask that you send your blessings to every child and teacher in the school systems across the globe. Let them know that it is time for a new level in education. Fill every heart with new life, prosperity, forgiveness, peace, and love. Give each of us the love that brings healing, provides direction for a new vision of excellence in the field of education, starting with determination by each one of us. Amen. I want to open by saying today we recognize National Read Across America Day, March 2nd, 2022. No matter what happens in education, I want you to remember, no matter what initiatives you hear about on the web or wherever, reading will always be first. Reading will always be first. When it comes to closing achievement gaps in education, reading will always be first. Hopefully, today you will gain insight about helping children with this essential skill while promoting academic success for children in schools and homes everywhere. It's time for a shift in education. As I mentioned, in January, life teaches us that when you know better, you should do better. Well, after today, when it comes to the teaching of reading, you will know better. Demand accountability. Ask those tough questions that Mary McLeod Bethune would ask during Women's History Month. Questions that Claudette Colvin asked when she refused to give up her seat at the age of 15, 9 months before Rosa Parks.
See?
Questions like Madam C.J. Walker asked when seeking solutions to hair care, when she was losing her own hair back in November in the 1890s. Questions that the parents of Ruby Bridges asked in the state of Louisiana while attempting to enroll her at an all-white school, fighting racial segregation. Little did they know that later on she would be the founder of the Mississippi Freedom Democratic Party. Questions Shirley Chisholm asked when seeking a seat in Congress as the first Black woman in 1968. Questions that Mae Jemison probably asked about flying in space. This was only for men. Questions she asked about joining the astronaut training program, of which she was later admitted in 1987. Even go on and ask those why not questions. Questions Michelle Obama probably asked about being the first Black woman in the White House. Keep asking those tough questions when seeking improvement in reading and literacy. That will give America, the entire country, the elevation to be recognized on a global platform of achievement in reading, a platform of superiority, achievement for all children, regardless of zip codes or skin tones.
All right.
I say to teachers and parents, especially to the parents who are now teachers, whether you're teaching reading, writing, math, science, social studies, technology, music, or any of the arts, or all of the above, start your day with positive affirmations, especially during a pandemic, especially during a pandemic. Start your day with positive affirmation. It is the healing thing to do. It is the healing thing to do. And from this book that I've written, Motivational Poetry, Healing the Soul, page 30, positive affirmations. I am healthy. I am intelligent. I will keep a sound mind. I will live a long, satisfied life. I have perfect vision. No illness will attack my body. My best days are straight ahead. I will become everything I was created to be. I will walk in my purpose. And for my acknowledgments today, I would like to first acknowledge my family and friends in the state of Mississippi and across the United States. My church family, Abounding Life in Posen, Illinois, and Bishop O.C. Booker. The Distinguished Authors Network, Dr. Natasha Evans, Mr. Orlando Caesar, Dr. Mary Patton, Mrs. Millie Anderson, Dr. Don Parker, Mrs. Marilyn Burks, Dr. Frankie Swope, and Mrs. Audrey Burgess. Furthermore, I would like to acknowledge Illinois State Representative Debbie Myers Martin and her support for communities in the South suburban areas of Chicago. And Ms. Shella Head, host of the radio show Facts Matter in the state of Mississippi, Lexington, Mississippi, and her manager, Mr. Isaac Tyrone Lindsay. And last but not least, internationally, I would like to acknowledge Dr. Raphael James, director of the Research Center there in Lagos, Nigeria, a researcher, a publisher, a motivator, who has donated over 53,000 books to children there in Nigeria, but even more than that. As of December 2021, he has trained 7,771 women free of charge in different vocations, Now that is truly more amazing women history. Last but not least, again, Chicago State University, Dr. Richard Darga and Dr. Atanis Gahangu for your continual support. And at the end of today's session, I will come back to you with 5 simple steps for enhancing the teaching of reading in your homes and schools. Thank you. Back to our beautiful hostess, Ms. Harris.
All right, all right. Yeah, this is good stuff. Now you can tell that she's serious about this. She has everything laid out that she wants to talk about before she actually gets into the heart of the discussion for today. And she was saying some things talking about when she first talked about reading, how important it is. And then the questions, you know, that we really should be asking. And she gave you examples of individuals that have asked questions. And a lot of that came through reading. You know, it can come through reading. The answers can come through reading. And I was thinking as you were mentioning different ones, I'm like, that's right. You know, I'm quite sure that, you know, as individuals were coming along, you know, you mentioned about Michelle Obama, you mentioned a few names there, you know, as they're coming along, you know, they, as women, you know, a lot of them, they had to ask questions.
Yes.
They were interested in areas or careers, like, as you mentioned, that were mainly
For men.
And so, but then that, I'm glad it didn't stop them. You know what I mean? So they ask questions, you know, and then the questions are in books, they're in the reading. So we want to take all that into consideration. Listen, what I want to ask you all to do, I've already asked you to share, but can you do me a favor and tag an educator? Tag an educator, tag a parent, tag children. If they're able, you know, they can always look at it. If they're in school right now, they can always come back and look at it as well. So this segment, as I mentioned as was mentioned in the promo, is not just for a certain group of people. It is for all of us. It is for the educated, it is for the student, it is for the child, it is for the parent. It's for everyone. And it's so important and so key. With that in mind, Dr. Wiley, let me ask you this first question. We already mentioned that it's National Read Across America Day. Talk about the significance of this day first, if you wouldn't mind, maybe kind of opening it up. Maybe some people don't know. Maybe some people just, they saw it. Oh yeah, okay, well, national, all right, whatever. But can you talk about the significance of this particular day?
Yes, I would love to. Thank you for that question. The day holds tremendous significance. When you think about where we are in life, where we are right now during this pandemic, we all were thrown into a place where we had to stare into a screen. We had to read everything we wanted to know. We had to read or either look at a video. We were thrown into the virtual platform. So reading became so key for so many people. You know, you got away from going places. You were just stuck in the house. So what did people do? Whether they were reading on social media, reading on Instagram, they were reading. People were reading things, and TikTok, whatever. They were reading and viewing things on social media. So the significance of this day is just huge, because now reading, our careers have shifted to reading and writing because of the pandemic. People are looking for more readers and writers as in careers that are related to things that are related to literacy. So you're looking for jobs, you're looking for people who can write things and put it on different platforms for people to view when they go to the internet. They're looking for people who are good readers. They're looking for writers. So it is so key, and we just need to close this gap when it comes to reading. So I'm here today to hopefully, and I hope America will utilize this day to look at some of the things that you are doing in your schools and in your homes. And if it's not making sense, don't keep on doing it. Don't keep on coming up with populations of students, children who are not readers. because we look at our newspapers. Every newspaper in the nation is written from the 6th or 7th to 8th grade level, and the Wall Street Journal is the 11th grade reading level. And when they say those reading levels, they are talking about academic vocabulary reading levels. So it's not knowing just reading a book, taking a book and reading, but having the true academic vocabulary to read those newspapers. And newspapers, so when a child cannot take a newspaper or a magazine and read it, that tells you a lot about that child's level of literacy or fluency.
Wow. Yeah. That makes a big difference. Oh my goodness, you're saying some stuff on today. I already told y'all she gets me excited. But you know what? And I mentioned this in the last show about how my brother would take the dictionary when he was living, and he would try to learn a new word every day.
One word.
And that always sticks out with me. But reading is so key. I just remembered as she was talking, guys, make sure you also tag authors, because, you have individuals, and, of course, Dr. Wiley herself she has written, I don't know how many, but you see the books behind her. That's not even half of the books that she's written. So please tag an author as well. It is so, but you know what, as I'm thinking, talking about reading is definitely going to be encouraging for the author as well, because you have individuals, you mentioned about, during this pandemic, we've had to read up on stuff. We've had to learn things, so that we could try and adjust to this that we were dealing with, in this pandemic, our new normal, if you will. And so you have to try to learn things, and all of that comes through reading. It's so key and so important. And so, of course, you have individuals who have, during the time of pandemic, especially when the shutdown happened, some people were probably like, okay, I need to do something. Many people have penned books. You yourself, of course, have penned a number of books during the pandemic. So it is definitely important to talk about reading. And it's going to be important for that author, because when they write their book, and they want people to purchase their books and read them, so this is going to be important for them as well. I do encourage each of you also that if you have any questions for Dr. Wiley on today, any questions on this topic of discussion on today, and please make sure you throw them into the comments section. The actual title for this particular segment, Dr. Wiley, we had it specifically, I'm trying to find it, because you wanted to talk about to parents. And hang on a second, guys, give me a second. I'm trying to, if you remember, Dr. Wiley, you can quote it for me. The topic that we have for today, you had it specifically.
How we can help parents in the home as well as teachers enhance the teaching of reading.
Yes. And I had that down, so you guys forgive me. I had it written down and I just couldn't get to it. But yeah, so we want to make sure that we focus on that on today. So again, if you have any questions, comments for Dr. Wiley, as we're going through this interview on today, I'll of course be going back and forth to see what you have written down, and we can definitely read those out. I do see you, Nicole Reed. Thanks for coming in. Tracy McKinney, an author, mothers. I love you guys for coming in. I do. This is going to be very key and very important. I see my aunt has arrived. Robbie Wellington is here. She's watching with us on today. So I appreciate that. And again, go ahead and throw in a comment so that I can see your name on today, if you haven't done so already. So Dr. Wiley, now, how long have you been a teacher of reading?
Ever since I started teaching in 1979, 80. So since 1980, so you can do the math. And it's been a while. I would say at least 40 years I've been connected to the teaching of reading, for sure. 40 years.
Wow. So, and obviously, like you said, it's been a long time. Mm-hmm. Tell me when you first started in that area or started teaching and reading, maybe some differences that have come about over the years. How was your mindset when you first went into it? Were you, determined or desiring to go into that area because you saw the need, or what exactly was going on when you first started in that area?
Great question. Actually, when I started teaching reading, I was not really going into the classroom. I thought to teach reading, I thought I would be teaching reading, writing, math, science, social studies. But it ended up there was a need in Carroll County in Mississippi at Vaden High School. They gave me a set of students. They were 11th and 12th graders, and they were far below that academic level. They were probably around the 6th to 7th grade reading level. So the principal of that school asked me to work with those students to try to get them ready for college or graduation and out of high school, get them out of high school. So I'm like, oh, with nothing, with no materials. I had no materials. So I knew I had to bring something that would be exciting to them and energizing, and they would want to read it. And they did. They wanted to read magazines and newspapers. And I went from there to taking a class at Mississippi State University, which was newspaper in education. And they showed me, that so much of what is about education can be taught using in literacy and education. It can be taught using a newspaper or a magazine. And I realized that you don't need a whole lot of materials to be effective in the teaching of reading. You just need to know what to do with the material that you have. So what I did, I brought magazines from home. They were kids, they were a diverse group of kids. So I brought all kinds of magazines, Time magazines, Jet magazine, Ebony, and the kids just gravitated to those magazines. And they want, of course, the boys went to Jet magazine to look at the centerfold, but they ended up reading because they had to share with the class. They ended up reading, and they ended up liking it. Did you bring in new magazines the next day? They would ask me as soon as I get to, you brought in more magazines? They wanted those magazines and newspapers. And I brought the, I think it was the Carrollton Greenwood Commonwealth, the Carrollton Conservative, the Winona Times, the Commercial Appeal was the newspaper there in Memphis, the Clarion Ledger from Jackson. I just brought a myriad of newspapers there for the students to have access to and read over, and the Holmes County Herald. So I brought those magazines there, and the kids loved, and newspapers, and they gravitated toward that. And I had no problem with them wanting to read at that point. They wanted to read. It was the material. And that's where I was reading some research about the gap between boys and girls and reading comprehension. And they said the boys are not interested in those long reading pieces where they got to read a lot of material and then write their responses and all of that. They are not even interested. They don't put forth a lot of effort. So when you look at test data and the data that they use for the schools and everything, it's not a true indication of what the boys can and cannot do. Sometimes they are just not interested in the materials. That's why I write so many of my books that all of my books are written during the pandemic for the most part. And they relate to families, homes, and schools. So kids can communicate and relate to and connect to things that are relevant to them, like the pandemic cat, this cat that was at home, and all of a sudden the owner of the cat was sent home because of the pandemic, where the cat felt like the cat had full access to the house when the owner was at work. So now the owner is back home, the cat has an attitude with the owner. So those kinds of stories get the students interested in reading, and who ate my McDonald's Happy Meal, stuff like that. They can relate to it. And so in many of the classroom, you have materials that is, you can really pronounce it dead. You can pronounce the material dead because the kids won't touch it. And when you tell them to read that, they get an attitude. They're so sad. They're sad. And one teacher told me that in conversation that an administrator hollered at him because he had leveled books in his classroom, and really level books are not shouldn't even be in the classroom. I mean, they're for the teacher to get and use when it's the right time. But really, for the most part, the student was interested in something in outer space, and it was above the student's reading level. So the principal hollered at the teacher for letting the student have access to the book above his reading level. But see, that's wrong on so many different levels. And a lot of times, administrators, they're just not sure about which way to go and how to help teachers, how to support teachers, and how to support teaching and learning. Some of the administrators are not sure about how to support teaching and learning, which means supporting the students. The best way to support the students. You want the students to be interested in reading, and you don't want to do anything to thwart that. You don't want to take that away from them. You want that high level of interest, and you want to work and build from that, not push them away, especially our boys. And I'll share more later on in this segment. I hope I have a piece I want to read about from a friend of mine, Alfred Tatum, who wrote a book on, it's entitled Teaching Reading to Black Adolescent Males. Okay. So I want to read a segment of that to you later on.
Okay. And you thanks for answering that question about how it, how everything came about when you first started teaching the reading. Now, I did want to ask you, because you mentioned that the administrators came to you and asked you to, basically help, the children with their reading, because their scores were low, or they weren't good at reading. Now, my question for you, it's interesting because you said you didn't have the resources yourself, but you started using the magazines and whatever else you can get them to basically read that was of interest to them. Do you believe that maybe, or it sounds simple, that maybe their reading scores were low because there weren't resources available for them, or just nobody had tapped into what would be of interest to get them to read?
Okay, this was back in the 80s, and in Carroll County, Mississippi, a lot of things weren't leveled. Okay, a lot of the kids who were students who were white went to academies, private academies. So the blacks and the poor whites went to the public school. And let me tell you, in Carroll County in Mississippi, I have a pretty clear recollection of what was going on there. And it was totally a disservice to the African-American children, the white children, the children of Carroll County. A lot of things that happened back then were totally inappropriate and a disservice to students. They did not get the quality education. Many students were retained year after year. I was teaching those students, I told you, by the 11th and 12th grade, but we were the same age. Some of us, we were the same age. I had finished college with a bachelor's degree, and they were the same age because they had been retained. And all African-American boys, nearly all African-American boys were withheld. They remained in the same grade for 2 or 3 years in Carroll County in Mississippi during those years. There's a history of retaining African-American, especially boys, in the state of Mississippi. There was a history there, and many of the intelligent people who are operating today and doing great on their jobs are some of those African-American boys who were retained back in the 80s in Mississippi.
Unbelievable. Wow. That's interesting. Well, I'm so glad that you were able to step in. Yes. I am so glad. I'm sure they, the parents.
Yeah, they reach out to me on social media. They are telling me on social media. They thank me. Even today, even in 2022, they are thanking me on social media for what I did back then.
Right. Well, I thank you for having the heart to do that. I don't even know who they were, but I thank you, because obviously it was needed. And it's a shame that it was such a, uneven base that you were dealing with. And it's quite interesting. It's always seems like they want to give us the short end of the stick. But I'm grateful for that administrator for reaching out to you as well and asking you to do that. Tennille, I see you. I don't know if I mentioned your name. Thank you so much. Angie Mims, thank you, my good friend, for coming in. Tracy says, wow, very interesting. Yeah, that is quite interesting to me. All right, I'm not going to touch that anymore because I could say more. But anyway, so I can only imagine what you had to deal with yourself, Dr. Wiley. Yes. Let me ask you this question. Well, before I ask the next question, so when you brought in your own materials, you didn't have any pushback, did you, with that? Were they okay with it?
Totally fine. Just close the door and said, teach them. That's it. Nothing against me, no pushback or anything. Just that this is what I need you to do. Just help these children, and that's it. They just walked out, closed the door, and said, "Here they are."
Right. Well,
So,
God gave you wisdom. That's all I can say.
Yes.
Now,
And it
what?
comes from love.
I'm
It
sorry. What
comes
was
from
that?
a love and a heart and a compassion for children. You got to have that love and compassion, and that will drive you and lead you in the right direction. That would kind of order your steps.
Definitely. I would definitely agree with that. So, what would constitute a good reading program for schools first, and then for homeschooling families?
Oh, I'm so glad you asked that question, because let me tell you, Ms. Harris, the number one, one of the number one programs in the United States that they're using now for what we call tier 2 and 3 students. Let me explain that. Tier 1 students means everybody in the classroom. That's tier 1. And what you work with those students, that's the primary group. The first group you work with in your reading program is the entire class. That's called tier 1. And then they break the students down according to test scores. Tier 2 are the students who have shown some deficits based on a recent assessment. Those are your tier 2 students. And then you have tier 3, the last year. Oh my God, you really don't want your child in tier 3, but we have a lot of students in tier 3. Tier 3 are the students who are drastically behind academically. And they are far, usually 2 or 3 grade levels behind. Those are your tier 3 students. And the programs that they use, one of the top programs is the Fontes and Pinnell program. Irene Fontes and Gay Sue Pinnell, they are 2 white women who created this program, and it's called, this is a book they published called Guided Reading, but they have their books leveled. And one of their levels, according to what I've seen on the internet, it says level U says that Black children are inferior, they're deviant, and they're not going to be successful, and white kids are always superior. And that's level U of that program. That is the top program that's used by many schools in the United States. They call it FMP LL.
Wait. I'm sorry. Woo, okay.
Yeah. Let me just read it. Let me pull it up. I think I have it right here.
So these individuals, the 2 women that you said they wrote this book?
They wrote that book, and they have a series, and you hear all the time, we're going to use the guided reading program by Fontes and Pinnell. Those are the 2 individuals. But level U of their program says that African American children are inferior to the other race of people. So yes. And I just thought, this is what we're using. This is what we're using. Okay.
Oh my gosh.
And because I just want National Read Across America Day, take a look at what's someone with power, take a look at what's happening in the schools and why. What's happening and why. That's what I think we should do. Just take a look at what's happening and why.
As she's looking for that, guys, I don't know if any of you all knew that or even knew about this reading program that she's referring to, but that's mind blowing to me. I shouldn't be surprised though. Unfortunately,
I have it right here, and it says, finally, one of the most troubling criticism of Fontes and Pinnell, that's the book that you hear schools talking about all the time, guided reading, this book right here. One of the most troubling criticism of Fontes and Pinnell is that some of the content in the level readers perpetuates racist stereotypes. A recent study, which used a content critical analysis, found that books included in level U of Fontes and Pinnell presented people of color as inferior, deviant, and helpless, while white characters were depicted as heroic, determined, innovative, and successful. So I'm asking schools to give me a call for my books. I have leveled my books into series for schools. So I don't get a call, Ms. Harris. I haven't gotten a call since the last show I was on. I don't get a call because they're using stuff it doesn't make sense. Okay.
It makes no sense. And it actually kind of angers me a little bit. I'm trying to calm myself down, but you all need to call Dr. Wiley. I promise you do, because this is what we're up against. This is what we're faced with. And this is what they're trying to push down our throats. And Ava Perkins says, I can't believe this. What do we do to inform our school districts to stop using this information? That's a great question.
Have your school district call me.
Okay.
Call an educator who knows. Call an educator who has worked for the Illinois State Board of Education. Call an educator who is a consultant. Call someone. Ask those tough questions.
Right, right.
Yes.
So do they probably need to first see what.
Find out what's going on. Find
Right.
out what's going on. You know, what do you ask those questions like, what are you doing for your tier 1 students? What material do you use? What are you using for your tier 2 and tier 3? Your tier 2 students are the ones they call those middle of the road, who can pull a school into you know, probationary status, or cause them to excel based on what you're doing for how you're pushing those students forward or pulling them backwards. You know, so ask what are they doing for their tier 2 and tier 3 students. And a lot of our African-American kids and students of color, Latino, Latinx kids end up in the tier 3 category, 2 to 3 years behind.
Like they just push them in there, just stuff them all in there.
Yes. And there's an easy solution to help our students. There's an easy solution. And you know what, Ms. Harris, while I was in the classroom, I was like the Harriet Tubman. Teachers would lead those kids to me and tell them, go down there and tell Dr. Wiley to find out your reading level, your real reading level, your independent reading level, your frustration level, and your instructional level. And within 1 minute, I could evaluate each child and send them back with a little sheet of paper, just like a Harriet Tubman, send them back with a little piece of paper, and it would say, this is the child instructional level, the child reading level, and frustration level. Right. And when they had that material at hand, those teachers could make more informed decisions. But they've given all these other assessments now that really do not give a clear, because many times during the pandemic, the students were assessed at home. Some of the parents took the assessment with the student and gave the student the correct answer. So how much of the assessments, that material, that the data that is being used now in school is valid? How much, I asked that question, how much is valid?
Yeah, I don't know if people want to know or understand what it actually is. But let me, oh goodness gracious, this is good information. What I want to do, because someone asked for your information, let me see if I can type this into the comment section. Dr. Wiley, how do they contact you?
Viola.Wiley34@gmail.com. That is the best way. I will get right back to them, and within 24 hours, I'll see if they're, you know.
All right, give it to me again, Dr.
Viola.Wiley34@gmail.com.
Okay. And so guys, I am typing in her email. She said this is the best way to contact her. And then you can go further from there. I'm sure she could, you know, maybe if you preferred to talk to her on the phone or something, you can go from there. So please email her first. And then I'm still typing, guys, sorry. And then you can move forward from there. All right. So Viola.Wiley34@gmail.com.
That is correct.
Okay. Yeah, this is, I mean, because see, you're telling us stuff today that many don't know, or many don't, maybe they've turned a blind eye to it sometimes. That definitely could be the case. But we want to educate. Come on, guys, we want to educate. We want to do things. We want to see our students, our children, you know, succeed. We want them to be successful. And I believe that it will start when we talk about reading. I mean, how else are you going to learn something? You got to read it first.
Reading will always be first.
Yes. Trudonna, I see that you've come in, another educator. Thank you for joining us on today. Make sure you guys, again, click that share button when you come in. We're talking today with Dr. Viola Wiley. This is our educational spotlight segment. This is the second one that we've done so far this year. And we wanted to make sure we had her to come back on today because today is National Read Across America Day. And if you're just not joining us, I'm telling you, she's telling us some very important information, you know, as it relates. It may sound simple, but it's important. Just read really the essence of the subject today. Make sure you read. And so she's instructing us how we should do, teach our children, the educators teaching their students. And some of you educators may be doing some of this. I don't know, you know, or maybe you can understand what she's saying on today. Tracy said, you have to read. I don't understand people who think reading is not important. I would totally agree, Tracy. I agree with that. Let's see here. Let me move on to our next. Oh, did you answer that second part of that question about homeschooling, or is it just maybe like the same? Go ahead.
Homeschooling. Take a look at this. Things like this are little, just label things in the home. Set up a makeshift grocery store at the house. Let the student write the grocery list when they start writing. And if they're not reading yet, if they're below the age of reading where they're reading, because let me tell you, at the age of 18 months, every 2 hours, that child usually learns a new word. At the age of 18 months, every 2 hours, that child can learn a new word. And I've seen babies, let me tell you, on TikTok using profanity when they could have been teaching them a new educational word, an academic vocabulary word. Yes, I have. You know, I'm just keeping it real today. I'm going to keep it real all the way through this show. You can label things like a cash register, and you can teach so many skills with this little cash register that you can purchase from Amazon or anywhere, and things, Walmart, whatever, and to just label things at home. And then keep it exciting for the kid. You know, if you got more than you got 2 or 3 kids, have these little buzzers there at home, and you're teaching a game, have them playing a game, and they match the buzzer. There you have it. This one got the answer first. There's another one. So they don't have to watch all of Steve Harvey's Family Feud. They can play games where they're learning their spelling words, sight words, and you got the one is in 3rd grade, the other one is 4th grade. You got these little buzzers going on at the house there. And then you can also, as a teacher, in your small group instruction, you have these little buzzers there. The kids love them. They love them when you're teaching. Keep it engaging and interactive. And they got all these type of things there.
Okay, all right.
There's so much you can do at home when you're working with the children. It is so much, because they can, with the pandemic, every a couple of weeks or whatever, you're going to the grocery store. Somebody in the house is going to the grocery store. Who's writing the list? I hope it's the child. I hope it's the child, because that's enhancing reading right there in the home. The grocery list. Every week, write this down. I'm not going this week, I'm going next week. Add that to the list. Okay, all right, read what you have. Oh, yes, Mom, you said a gallon of milk, a box of margarine. You have them writing and reading their writing, reading it back to you. You're enhancing the teaching of reading right there in your home. There are so many simple techniques we can get, and let them keep a reading journal from whatever today is. If you haven't done it already, start today. Okay. And every time you read a book, add it to that journal. Was it interesting? Would you recommend it to someone else? And keep it going. Keep that log going, a reading journal. Keep it in the home. Also keep it in the classroom, a reading journal. So when they get to graduate from high school or college, look at all the books I read. Because if you have them do them, guess what's going to happen? It's going to be passed down to their children. They're going to have their children keeping a reading log, and they're going to enhance the teaching of reading in the home.
Yeah. Okay, that's good stuff. So, you know, this is good instruction. She talked about she wanted to address the parents on today, so this is very good instruction for them, as for you all as well. And I know there's going to be something that you're going to get out of this on today. I know it is. You all are commenting already. Ava says here, I have an autistic grandson. My daughter worked very hard to teach him to read. His teacher keeps telling her that he is doing great. But recently, my daughter noticed that his reading level has decreased and has asked the teacher to give him more challenging materials. How does she help him without frustrating him about reading? That's an excellent question.
Excellent question. The one thing you want to find out is you want to find out the interest of the child, and make a list. And then you want to get books along those lines and keep those books in the home as well as in the school. Maybe a couple of those books for the autistic child, even in the car when you're riding along, and then you want that child, if possible, to keep a box of interesting words from the books. And then you can use those flashcards of words in the car, in the home, and at school, and share those with the teacher. You want to connect reading to home, school, and community. So you want to connect wherever that child is going. You want the grandmother to have knowledge of what the child is working on in the school, as well as the school and home. And it shouldn't just stop in the home. A lot of times children are in vehicles from one place to the other. Sometimes those trips are extended. They are long trips, and they can have all kinds of reading materials instead of a cell phone, looking at TikToks and stuff like that. They can have reading materials in those vehicles as you're traveling. And you just want to maximize the use of the time that you have with your children, because they grow up so fast and they're gone. So you want to set good examples for all of the children, and find out what the diagnosis are, if they are autistic, or if they're truly autistic, or if they think they are autistic. Find out the true diagnosis and work with the child, because a parent called me this morning, and the parent lives in the south suburbs of Illinois and is going to a meeting tomorrow, and the child was being labeled as a slow learner. And when the grandparent who called me, when she took the child to a specialist, she started took the child to an eye doctor to have the eyes checked. And then she wanted to have the ears checked to see if the child can hear. And she found out the child has serious vision problems. Not that the child was a slow learner, the child can't see. So the grandmother wondered, because when the child comes over to the home, the child is all up in the screen looking at television. So she wondered about, what is it? Why is the child? So when she took the child in, so now she's getting her private different specialists to examine the child, and taking the information to the school. And see, the school should, the school's supposed to conduct vision and hearing assessments. They're supposed to. So I don't know where the ball was dropped, but they're ready to, many schools are ready to quickly put the child, especially if they're African American, they can go in this stack right here that says tier 3.
Right.
But let's find out why the child is falling behind, the true reason.
Yeah. Oh, Tracy, I hope that answered your question. And that was a great response, because, as you were talking, I'm thinking, the first thing would be what you mentioned about finding what their interests are, but then you jumped over to mentioning about find out the true diagnosis, trying to find out what it actually is. You reminded me of someone, I can't remember who it is right now, they were having, I think it was it vision issues, their child or whatever. And that was the main problem. That was the issue. It wasn't that they weren't, smart enough to catch on, or that they were slow, but they couldn't hardly see, and then I think when the parent took them to the eye doctor, it was just like a whole new world for them, and they were able to grab hold of the lessons and learn. Because, go ahead.
And let me say this, I didn't mean to interrupt you, but during this pandemic, children have been staring into screen after screen after screen. You're going to see more and more vision problems. So let us be cognizant of that, and be kind of aware of what's happening. You're going to have more and more, you have more and more neck strains because they're staring into cell phones and they're not looking eye level and their head is not straight. So they're getting lots of students into medical facilities because of the pain in the back of their neck, because they've been straining, looking at playing video games or looking at the cell phones or straining or whatever. But for the remote learning, when the pandemic hit the state of Illinois and the United States, children had to, if they were going to keep up in any capacity in education, they had to stare at a screen. How much screen time is safe? How much screen time is safe for your child? Google that, find out, ask those tough questions. Can my child do this while not looking at the screen? Find out how much screen time your child is engaged in, even in the classroom. Ask those pivotal questions in education that will lead to progress for your child. Because for many children, many children, they're not able to speak for themselves, nor do they have any clue of what they should be asking. But for the parents, I'm here today for you and the teachers to ask those tough questions. How much screen time is safe for the children in your classroom, teachers and parents? How much screen time is safe?
Oh, this is good stuff. Don't you all hear her heart? She has such a heart for the people, such a heart for the children. And I love it. I love it. No one should be left behind. And that, so Tracy, let me know again if that helped you, or her response helped your question. Janice, I see that you joined us. Thank you so much. And I think I saw my good friend, Randy Glass. Thank you so much. Oh, you know what? I'm sorry. I kept saying that was Tracy. That was Ava that asked that question. So please forgive me. But Ava, let us know if that helped you. Let's see here. I'm scrolling down because there were some more comments. Ava did mention, as you were talking earlier, she said, I used to make my kids read billboards when driving, and the labels in the grocery store. That's excellent. That's excellent. Let's see here. Tracy, okay, this comment is coming from Tracy. It says, John Maxwell stated his father paid them to read instead of paying them to do chores or an allowance. I have recently incorporated that with my youngest daughter, who loves to read. And now at the age of 9, she is also an author. That's right. That's right. Now, my other kids who are adults now, she said she had to threaten them to read.
How cute is that? How cute is that? Yes, a 9-year-old author. I love that. And there's one in Mississippi, in Greenville, Mississippi, a 9-year-old author. The librarian there reached out to me. But yes, I love it. I love it when we get these young authors. And so I got a lot of work to do. I got to extend my network and get this young authors network going. So I got a lot of work to do.
That's right. That's right. Yes. Okay, another comment from Ava. My 13-year-old, 12-year-old twins, and 9-year-old grandchildren are coming down for spring break. As the grandma, what suggestion do you have to get them to put the cell phones and computers away and engage in reading? That's a great question.
I would suggest, that's an excellent question. I would suggest that they, based on their grade levels, get those academic vocabulary planners, have them maybe at the end of the week, find an article from a newspaper or a magazine that ties with that academic vocabulary word. Find an article for this one, to connect those academic vocabulary to real life reading. So get an academic vocabulary planner for each one of those children. What are their grade levels again?
Let's see. Well, she gave ages. So
ages.
Well, I guess you can kind of figure them out.
Yeah, okay.
13-year-old, 12-year-old twins, and a 9-year-old.
Okay, probably 6th grade, 7th grade, and a 9-year-old, 3rd grade, or 4th grade. We say 4th grade, I would go with 4th grade for the 9-year-old. Yes, right. Get those academic vocabulary planners. And if they're doing pretty good in school, you might want to just go one level above. So if they're 4th grade, get the 5th grade. If they're 6th grade, get the 7th grade. And if they're 7th grade, get the 8th grade one. So it won't hurt to be a level above. but you don't want to be a level below. But if she think they're maybe below in school, you can drop down a level. So if they're third grade, get the second grade level. You just get academic vocabularies incorporated into the home before they get there.
Love it. Love it. Oh, man. All right. So hopefully that answered your question, Ava. She said, now you're talking to me. I was having the same problem with my neck from being on the computer all day. You know, and I was just about to say, it's not just the children, you know, because we on Zoom. You know, so it's you know, everybody has been affected, but yeah, our children definitely need to, you know, maybe have that break, you know? Yeah. Another question here, how important is it for grandparents to be involved in our grandchildren's schools?
Wow. That's an excellent question. How important? You know, I would say just a guesstimate. I would say about 60% of the students who are in the schools are with the grandparents. So how important is that? So they are really doing the student leaves the school. The student comes to the grandparent. The grandparent gets the child ready for school and makes sure homework is done and sends the child back to the school. So it's the grandparent who's doing a lot of the parenting in many other homes. It's the grandparent. And that happened I would say decades ago, where it was shifted from parents to grandparents in education. Because I noticed during report card pickup, most of my individuals who came to pick up the children report cards were grandparents.
Wow. So then they should have, you think they should have some kind of say?
It's a part of the child's education. So they definitely should have a clear connection with the school, what's going on in the child's life and what's happening in the classroom. And be an assistant in the classroom, always a positive person in the classroom. When you want to take a look at what your child is actually doing, even if you take a sneak peek to come up to the school and just sneak, you don't want to interrupt instruction, but to know what's going on in the school. We need parents in the building. We got so many things we don't need in the building. We don't need any violent activities or parts in the building, but we need parents in the building. We need grandparents in the building. You know, it should be, many schools have what we call Grandparents' Day, but Grandparents' Day should be almost every day in the schools. You know, just like Mother's Day should be almost every day. You know, you got a good mother, you know, and that's the way grandparents are, and mothers and parents in the school. Any day, they should be welcome in the school, but for the right reason. When you come up there, have the right motive, be knowledgeable about what's going on in education. If you don't know, send me an email and I'll bring you up to speed with what's going on in schools and what should be going on in school. Because many times what is happening in the buildings should not be happening. I talked to a radio show host who said there were 4 fights in a school last week. And this is during the pandemic. And students who are below in reading, and you're fighting in the school and the cameras are rolling. So know what's going on in your schools across the country. Know what is happening, and never forget what I said at the beginning of this segment. Reading is always first. And many times when kids can't read, they cause problem in the classroom to take the students, their peers, and the teacher's mind away from the fact that they can't read. Many times your bullies and your problems in your buildings are students who are below academic reading levels.
Wow. They're smart enough to create a distraction, but yes. But they need to be smart enough to read as well.
To read.
Yeah. Ava said that's a good idea. She'll use that when her grandkids come down. The grades were 6th, 5th, and 3rd grade. All right. Okay. So you were just about right. Let's see. She's thanking you for your response to that. Woo, this is some good stuff. I don't even have any children and I'm excited. Let's see. Okay, so you already mentioned about how the pandemic has basically affected our students, you know, with their eyesight. Do you want to expound on that a little bit more? Are you?
Yes, I would love to. I would love to. For many times, the pandemic hit families in a way where they were totally unprepared, because some families had no connection to education. They just simply told the kids, you got to go to school today. And that's it. But when the kids were at home with the families, it became very frustrating. According to social media, what I see parents posting on social, they became very frustrated with their own children in their houses during those 6-7 hours when they should have been out of the houses. So the parents wanted that breathing space away from their kids. Can I say it like that? They wanted the kids out of the house. And so now you got the child home, and the school, for some families, the internet access was not where it should have been. No high-speed internet. It did not have that. So for many of the families, the schools were reaching out. A lot of the schools did an excellent job trying to get those Chromebooks or whatever into the hands of the families and the children there. But sometimes they got faulty devices, and they still were not able to get online. But at the same time, they're falling further and further behind. Now, look, you got to take everything the way it really is. For 400 years, we have been behind, if you know what I mean. For 400 years, we can't afford to get any further behind. Before the pandemic hit, we had schools where 5% of the kids were on level and 95 were below level. And that's many schools across the United States, which means really that 5% of the kids could read and comprehend, and 95% could not, where you got a school building filled with educators with all kinds of degrees, but you only have 5% of the kids who were reading at grade level. So something is wrong with the practice of what is happening in the building when you have things like that. So who wants to take time to say, we're going to change this? But that's the problem. If the funding is still being supplied, and there is some type of little program where you can just click a button, we're going to do the same thing we did last year, because we used that program last year. We're going to click and order the same material. Nobody is willing to rock the boat. But let me tell you, the boat needs rocking. The boat needs to be rocked at many of the schools. The boat needs to be rocked. So we as parents and educators, we have community leaders, we must demand more for our children, demand more for this generation, because whether we know it or not, this generation is the generation who will be taking care of us, whether it's we are not taken care of properly or not. And I don't think we will be taken care of properly if they can't read. Oh, I gave it the wrong message. No, you say I gave it the wrong message. Oh, I didn't know what that said. I thought it said this. I couldn't read. Okay. Because sometimes you will get the wrong message because the person couldn't read. Okay. Mm-hmm. Think about education in a very serious fashion. And that's why I'm so passionate about reading and education, because it connects all the dots in life. And education separates poverty from prosperity. It is education that separates poverty from prosperity. So I challenge community leaders, I challenge parents and teachers to get actively engaged in your child's education. And Ms. Harris, since I was here last, I have been doing a lot of work in education. I have series now. So I have a pre-K series. If the parents have a child in pre-K, get the pre-K series. If you have a first grade series, I have second grade, third grade, those pre-K through third grade, highly saturated reading material there I have put for our children across America and other nations who are also taking advantage of the materials. I think about education for those early grades, Ms. Harris, as get ready, get set, go. Get ready is pre-K and kindergarten. That's the get ready level. You get them ready for learning. You get set with first grade and second grade. You're practicing with words and pronouncing words and putting those phonemes and letters and sounds together. And then when you get third grade, you are at the go level. That means you're reading for meaning. You're reading for meaning for the rest of the years preschool through second grade, you are learning to read. But when you are third grade and above, you are reading to learn, and that's for the rest of your life. Third grade, reading to learn for the rest of your life. That's why research says that if you're behind at third grade, you will be behind the rest of your life. So that's why I saturated the reading material based on my expertise as a reading coach, as a literacy coach, as a reading teacher. I saturated my books with skills and words and vocabulary that students need in order to be successful and ready for stage 3, which is grade 3, the go level, reading for meaning.
Wow. Now, you said something just now about if they're still at the third grade level, then they'll probably be behind
For the rest
of their life. Wow. I never knew that, never understood it to be so, but that makes a lot of sense, especially how you broke it down for us. I'm telling you guys, this is some very good stuff that we really need to take in here. Listen, if you're just not joining us, you're not too late. You can catch the rest of this live. If you have to rewind once the show is over, then by all means, please do that. But we are featuring Dr. Wiley again in our educational spotlight segment here on Mind, Body, and Soul with Annette. Today is National Read Across America Day. And so we're talking today about reading. The actual topic title for today that we were focusing on is the teaching of reading and literacy to help the parents as well as the teachers. So, again, this particular segment is not just for, a certain group of people, or, I don't have any children in school. I don't have any children. I'm not an educator. This is not for me. Yes, it is for you. It is definitely for you. We've already had individuals on here asking questions about their grandchildren and so on and so forth. So it affects all of us. It really does. The more we, receive this and take it in, I think the better off we'll be. There's a comment here. It says, how can parents, I wanted to make sure I hadn't read it already. How can parents and grandparents educate themselves of the educators, the teachers, the counselors, the principals, language, word choices, so when we conference with them, we won't feel intimidated and not heard? Okay. So how can they communicate with them without feeling intimidated?
How can, repeat that question again. I want to make sure I understand what you're saying.
How can parents or grandparents educate themselves of the educator's language? So the educator being a teacher, a counselor, or principal, so that when the parents or the grandparents go to have a conference with them, that they feel confident and not intimidated, by the language that the educators use. Okay, excellent question, because a lot of the educators do, especially administrators, they use many times, just not aware, I believe, the language that's comfortable for the audience that they're speaking to. It should be always relatable. Bring it down to the average citizen level. Consider that the average newspaper in the United States is written at the 6th grade level. So use that kind of language as you would a newspaper and talk to the parent. But I would suggest, I don't know how long this will be available, but to rewind this segment, you will get tips as to, you want to ask, what are you doing for your tier 2 students? And listen to this segment. It will be available, I think, on YouTube after the show is over, and you can always be aware, and you can ask questions like, what is my child's Lexile level? Lexile, that's Lexile. And you get the Lexile level from the assessment, and Illinois administers the NWEA assessment, as well as the Illinois Assessment of Readiness. So if your child has been assessed, ask what is your child's Lexile level, and then look at your child's textbook and ask the teacher, what is the Lexile level of this book? Now, if your child, let me give you some example.
Well, kindergarten through first grade, they don't have really Lexile levels, but second through third grade will start about 450. That you see 450 L, that L stands for Lexile. So third through fourth grade be 450 to about 725. That's where the Lexile's level should be if they're on level. And fourth through fifth grade will be about 645 to 845. That's the Lexile level if they're normal, they are on grade level. Okay, if they're on grade level, your fourth and fifth graders will be somewhere between 645 and 845. Your sixth to eighth grader will be 850 L. The L stands for Lexile to 1010 Lexile. And your ninth through 10th grader will start about 960 Lexile, goes all the way to about 1115 Lexile level. And your 12th grader, your seniors in high school, will start at about 1017 and will go to about 1220 Lexile. That's where they should be if they are on grade level. So you want to see if the book is matching the child, or if your child is receiving instruction far above his or her Lexile, or far below. The child could be advanced, and the child might need to be in an accelerated program or a gifted program. So you want to make sure the Lexile level of the material your child is engaging with in the classroom matches the actual child. If that makes sense for you, and you can always replay this segment of this, or you can just send me an email. I'll be glad to get back to you. And because you want to ask those kinds of questions, because the English language is composed of 44 different sounds, and those 44 different sounds can be very confusing for many children. If I ask you, what is EAR? You're thinking ear, okay? But is it also air? Yes, it is. Okay, because if you spell P-E-A-R, that you eat, you're gonna say pear.
Pear.
B-E-A-R, the big animal, you're gonna think bear. So E-A-R is ear sometimes, not always. You have to learn. And I would say when you're teaching things, you know, work smart and incorporate everything that's smart, teachers, into your curriculum. If I ask you right now, Ms. Harris, what is 30% of 40? You can't use your phone. You can't use your phone or anything. You see, right. You're thinking, right? But look, if I gave you this strategy, 3 times 4 is 12. 30% of 40 is 12. See that simple strategy right there? Now you know. You go in the store, you walk in the store, and you see that this dress is 30% off, and it costs $70. So what is 30% of 70? What you gonna think? 21. Because 3 times 7 is 21. And now you can get your phone out and calculate and check it out, and you'll see. So when you learn better, you do better. You work smarter, not harder. So every advance that you can give children to get ahead, give it to them. Every tool that you can give them to use to get ahead of the game globally, to compete globally, give it to them. Every advancement in education, give it to them. Give them newspapers, give them magazines in the classroom, things they're interested in. Find out what they're interested in. You know, do a survey. Yeah. The first week of school, find out what their interests are. Bring magazines along those lines. You'll catch them sneaking and reading. And that's what you want them to do. You want children to fall in love with reading, fall in love with books. You want them reading.
Love it. Ooh, this is good. This is good. Brandy said that's what I did. Oh, they're saying they've saved this to their this live video, to their saved videos, so they can go back and listen, just like you suggested. All right. Hopefully that answered your question. Let's see. Yes, that is true, says Ava. By third grade, their attitude, did I read this already? And self-confidence are set if nothing is done to rectify the negativity. Yeah. And when you mentioned that, yeah.
Third grade.
Somebody said this is very good. I'm enjoying it myself, and I'm doing the interviewing. My goodness, and you learn. And like she said, when you know better, you should do better. And this is what we're trying to get across on today. Let me go back to my questions here, because one question could take us to something else, and then
yes, go on.
So it's always a good thing to be able to just sit down and just learn sometimes. This is what we need to do. So let's see. Okay, how critical is the availability of the right people when teaching reading? Oh, I love this question.
Oh my God, I love this question. How critical. It is so key when teaching reading to have the right person and the right attitude in front of the children. And many of the teachers have it at heart to be the right person. They just have not received the appropriate training. They haven't received the appropriate professional expertise in order to meet the needs of the entire class and taking each child and meeting the needs of the whole child. For each individual child, every child in that classroom is important. Mm-hmm. Every child is important, and meeting the needs of all of the children. So it is critical to have the right people in place. And many of the teachers want to be the right people. They just have not received opportunities in training to be the right people. Because I'm available, Ms. Harris. I haven't trained anybody this year. I haven't received no call. I'm available Monday through Friday, available. No calls. If students are failing, they're letting them just continue with the failing. We're not going to change anything. We're just going to get through this year. We're going to get through this pandemic. We're not going to change anything from what we did last year. We're just going to keep doing what we, and I email some very important people, and they say, well, we'll probably get you on in November of 2022. So this whole year just goes wasted. And in November, they'll get me on as a speaker for, I think, principals and stuff for the state. But just the idea the whole year has to be wasted. Other than right now, hopefully they will go on and listen to this segment of your show and make use of it. We need flashcards for our young babies, our preschool through third grade. We need flashcards. So let me tell you, parents, we need 3 sets. We need a set at home, a set in the car, and a set at grandma's house. Because now that many people have received vaccinations and whatever, and they're traveling and they're going places and they're seeing grandma now. So a set of cards at grandma's house. So when the child is spending Saturday and Sunday at grandma, instead of locking into that TV and on those video games and on the phone and whatever, a Nintendo Switch, put those things away and get those flashcards out. And you'll be so amazed at how the kids love it when you pull out the flashcards at home. They're so excited when grandma pulls out the flashcards. They are excited. They want to do that. They just bored and they get on the video components and devices because there is nothing else tangible they can get their hands on that means anything to them. So when you reward them, like, oh wow, you beat me. You answered the question. You beat me. You got the little whistle, and they love it. They love it. You'll be surprised at how you can get the children engaged at home using little devices and making flashcards and putting them on things and asking, okay, cash register. Bet you can't spell it in 5 seconds. Get ready, spell it 5 seconds. Cash register. Oh, you got it. You beat me.
Yeah, I like that. I like that. More hands-on. Because you're right. I mean, the society that we live in is such a fast-paced society. We will, you just ask the question about, the percentage of a certain number, and we'll immediately go, I'm guilty. Yeah. We're so used to it, using our computers, using our phones. And so, of course, the children are doing the same thing. And I have seen a number of parents who basically, and this is, I'm not saying this to offend anybody, but, they'll immediately give them their phone. Their baby will ask in a minute, you can't even hardly talk, but phone, because they want the phone. And sometimes that's what they're doing to keep them I don't know,
Engage,
pacified.
pacified, occupied, yeah, pacified.
Right, and then sometimes it's being given to them so that they won't disturb the parent and whatever the parent is doing at that point. So let me give them something to get them out of my hair right now. And again, I'm not saying that to be offensive or anything, but we there has to be a balance, and Dr. Wiley is talking to us today about these simple things that we could do, with our children, our nieces, nephews, grandchildren, to get them to learn, to get them to read, and to understand, because we don't want to be washed away with this technology, that we're in. Go ahead.
And I want to add to what you're saying is the refrigerator. The refrigerator is one of the best teaching tools you can find. Those refrigerator magnets. You can work on one word family a week. If you're going to do the AIR words, then you just work on that word family, a whole week. Work on that word family. The next week on the refrigerator magnets. Use another word. Put some more letters up there. Those letters, you can get them from the dollar store. Get those magnets and put on the refrigerator and use those as teaching to my granddaughter loves the magnets. I said, okay, what we doing today? She's just 4, but rat, we're gonna do the at family. So she went rat and she did mat and she did pat and brought out the letters and put them on the table and showed me. I said, okay, all right, now you can play with your toys. You can get your baby doll out and play with your baby doll. You did all your at sounds for today, so now you can play with your baby doll. So use the refrigerator magnets in the homes. You just got so many tools right there in the home. Having the 3 sets of cards, you definitely want to have that when they're traveling, and also at grandma's house, have a set of word cards and you can go to the academic. If they know everything all the Dolch words, which are 220 words that every kid should know from preschool through 3rd grade. If they know all 220 Dolch words, then make sure they are on the academic vocabulary words, and they're all available on Amazon. I started out doing 3rd grade through 8, but then I kept getting so many phone calls. I had to go back and do 1st grade, 2nd grade, and I went on up to college, 1st year of college. So you got all of those academic vocabulary words available to parents, grandparents, teachers, educators, and all of those who want to advance in education.
Love it. Love it. Ava says, she says, I'm not being offensive. Thank you, Ava. She says, good parenting is hard work and time consuming, but so worth it and rewarding when they become productive and successful adults. That's the key. That's the key. That's the key.
Yes.
Minister Gloria, I see that you've joined us. Thank you so much for coming in. Again, click that share button if you're here on the Facebook Live. And also we thank you all for joining us on YouTube, for listening, and those of you who are on Instagram as well. So thank you so much. I had an addendum or another part to that question I just asked you about how critical it is for individuals to have the right frame of mind when they're teaching reading. What happens, or what would you advise when parents and they're running into that particular situation, the fact that they don't have a teacher or educator that has the right attitude when they're teaching their child? Maybe they've noticed this, or maybe their child has come back and said, oh, this teacher is so how would you advise them if they are faced with an individual who does not have the right attitude, or maybe not even the right person to teach reading?
I would have real-time, authentic indicators. What I mean by that, I would be in the classroom myself. I can't make it, so I'm going to send my sister to observe Shamario to see what he's doing in reading. So I'm just giving an example. Have someone in the family. If you can't make it, you can't take off from your job and to make it there in the classroom. Just have some real anecdotal records of what's happening in the classroom and what you saw. And you don't have to interrupt. You want to be supportive. You want to go into the classroom with a mindset of support for the teacher, because teaching is a real-time job, you guys. It is really a heavy job. It can be a heavy job, but you want to go in with as much parental support as you can muster when you go into the classroom. You want to be the other set of eyes and ears what you saw, because sometimes the teacher may not have actually noticed that, and you can bring some things to the teacher's attention, and you want to share things. If you know your child has difficulty seeing and has vision problem but does not have glasses, let the teacher know. Don't just make it like an Easter egg hunt. You gotta find it. I mean, give the teacher as much pertinent information as possible for your child to help your teacher, you and that teacher form a partnership for moving that child ahead. Form this educational partnership with the school so that all of you guys have the best interest of the children at heart.
That's good stuff right there. Because you really do need to make sure you have a good relationship with the educators as a parent. I firmly believe that. And my mother, she was deaf on that. I mean, she made sure she was involved. Someone asked the question, are parents still allowed to come and sit in the classroom nowadays?
If Viola Wiley had her own school, every day I would invite a parent. But since the pandemic and all of this, there's a lot of, should I say, politics? There's a lot of things going on now, and I don't know for sure if you can go in whatever respective school, because some schools are private schools, some schools are public, and we have the parochial schools. So I don't know the exact rules, ramifications for every school. So you would have to contact that school district and speak to them. Many times I noticed before I retired that parents had to have a background check to make sure you're not a felon in the classroom, in the school building, and you're not one of those other people who have to stay so many feet away from children and from school buildings, to make sure you're safe around the children and you have the best interest at heart when you're working in and around school buildings, because schools to me are sacred places. They should be, children should feel safe at school. We shouldn't feel that they shouldn't be learning in terror and fear. They should be free to learn every single day. And if that means you got to put up metal detectors at the front of the school, wherever an entrance is, whatever door they're entering the building from, if you need metal detectors, then go out and try to seek the funding to get that in place at those buildings. So when those little babies walk in the door, they feel safe learning, and they don't have to wonder about someone coming in the building, shooting up the school or anything. Make the schools one of the safest havens for our babies as we can. Make those schools safe for learning.
Yeah, I like that idea of the background check. I mean, because you have pedophiles. You have those who have been convicted and listed as sex offenders. So people need to know. They need to know that, whoever's coming in over their children, aren't one of those people. You want to keep your children safe. You send them away to learn. You send them away, for an education, and you don't want them to be, subjected. Yeah, exactly. Lady Carolyn, I see you over here on Instagram, and I don't know, you were on my mind as I was interviewing on today. So thank you for joining us. And she made a comment over here. She says her school has metal detectors. So yeah, you have many that are experiencing that. Let's see here. I'm hopping back over to Facebook, and I thought okay. So hopefully that answered your question, Brandy. Ava says, you're so right, Dr. Wiley. As long as I could, and even as a grandparent, would send kind and thank you notes and encouragements to the teacher, so that they would make sure they gave my children and grandchildren the attention and help they needed to learn and be successful. Yeah, establishing that relationship, and we mentioned that earlier. That's wonderful. And that's almost similar to, like, even, you have a loved one that's going in the hospital, you need to advocate for them, and medical staff needs to know that they do have someone that cares, about them, family member, whatever. And so it is in education as well. So this is, you guys are giving us some good, writing out some good comments and asking good questions on today. I want to move forward. Do you have something you
Yes, I
wanted to
want to
say?
say something. There is a lot of power in praise. When you praise a child, the child is going to perform better in the classroom and even at home. When you praise a teacher, the teacher is going to go all out to do the very best for your child. So there is that's P.O.P, the power of praise. Don't ever forget that. Praise, if you think the administrators are doing something good for the school, praise them, let them know. You don't have to wait until the end of the school year to let them know that they're doing a good job, because if you praise them on Monday, they're going to do better on Tuesday. Don't save your praise. Just give out praises where they are deserved, especially starting with your children. The power of praise. You know, I love it that you made 85 on that spelling test this week. I know you're going to make 90 next week. And they're going to work so hard to make 90 because you praised them for the 85. Or if they made 70, I know you're going to make 75 the next time. Praise them. They're going to perform better. There's a lot of power in praise.
Power praise. I love it. I love it. Hey, guys, you guys keep that in mind as you are going about and parenting and teaching the power of praise. All right, let's see. What impact does the reading program have on the outcome of students' reading achievement? And in addition to that, maybe you can share maybe some success stories that you know of.
What impact does the reading program have on the outcome of students' achievement? Did I understand that correctly?
Yes.
Okay. That's difficult to answer because it depends on the executor, who is actually making sure and implementing the program, and if it's being implemented in a way that will be beneficial to every child. There are a lot of programs out there, and some programs are simply programs. I wrote this program so that I could get paid, no interest in the children. So you want programs that are geared toward actually reaching the population of students that are in your area. So if you're in, I would say, the south suburbs of Illinois, and you have students who are very, very high in academic achievement, you don't want to get a program that's geared toward tier 2 and tier 3 students. You want to get a program that's geared toward enrichment and advancement. So it's based on the population, your demographics, and the population of the students you are servicing. So you really have to match, just like with the books, matching the books with students, you need to match the program with your population of students and make sure the people who are implementing the program are aware of the best strategies for reaching all learners. And that means everyone, regular students, your autistic students, your dyslexic students, all of the students, your students who are English as a second language learner, and you have students who already know 3 languages and English is their 4th language. And you have a lot of that these days. And I would suggest that with every program, every school, let me say it like that, we incorporate other languages into the program for all of our students if you're getting your students college and career ready. Because many times when I dial numbers now, English is the second language.
Wow.
Press 1 for Spanish, 2 for English, 3 for Arabic, and sometimes, and that's what I'm getting when I'm calling to school districts. Press 1 for English, for Spanish, 2 for English, 3 for Arabic. So make sure we're giving students what they need. And I do know of one school district I worked at in Country Club Hills where they did teach the students at that time Mandarin Chinese. Well, that's great because Mandarin Chinese is the #1 language in the world with over, let's see how many billions. They have billions language, 1.28 billion speakers, 1.28 billion speakers of Mandarin Chinese. So English for your students who are born here in America, then Spanish, and then Mandarin Chinese. And you have language academies in the city of Chicago. I know there are quite a few language academies, but every public school should be a language academy. Every public school should be a language academy if we don't want our children to fall behind. Every public school should be a language academy. And you don't have to look a long way. You don't need to go all the way to the UK to find out what's working. Right here in the south suburbs of Illinois, we can go to Walter Payton College Prep High School. I think it's the third best school in the nation. So if it's the third best school in the nation, it's right down the street, as some people would say, down the street. It's right down the street. Go there, send someone there, observe what they're doing and duplicate. Duplicate. You don't have to go to Europe. Go to Walter Payton College Prep Academy right here in the state of Illinois, in the city of Chicago. Go there, find out what they're doing. You're teaching some of the same kids who live next door to some of those kids.
Yeah.
They just got in and your child didn't make it in. But go there and duplicate the program. We went to, back in the 90s, we went to the Wesley School in Texas. Some of the teachers went via, on the airplane, I went via satellite. But we communicate with that school because that was the third best school in the United States at that time, elementary school. And so we duplicated their program and we got the same type of results they got. So when you know where to go to get what you need to advance, don't sit down and keep doing the same thing because it's comfortable.
Right.
Stop letting these children fall behind because it's comfortable and you don't want to rock the boat. Rock that boat.
Yeah, you have to get out and tip it over. Yeah. Wow, that's amazing. Ava says the power of praise that will preach. Yeah, that will definitely preach. I hope you guys are getting something today. I really do. With it being National Read Across America Day, and I had already asked you at the beginning to talk about the significance of this particular day, but what types of national efforts do you think should have been implemented considering the pandemic and its impact on us?
You know what? Considering the fact that we are in a pandemic, National Read Across America Day, everybody should be sitting down tonight at the television watching the television. Our national program should be on saying what initiatives we're going to take moving forward for our children during this pandemic and beyond. So someone, the education secretary for the United States should be speaking to the nation tonight to say this is what's going on, or today at the school, so all the children can hear. All of the children should be listening to the education secretary speak to the nation about education, what is going to take place in reading, how we're going to move you forward and not let you fall any further behind during this pandemic, because there are lapses in education. There were lapses, and because of the pandemic, you got to know there were lapses. So how we're going to close these gaps now and move forward. So that individual should be speaking to the nation today, and it should be replayed. That same segment should be replayed tonight for the parents who had to be at work and couldn't hear it during the day. It should be just like I'm doing it now. I'm not the national secretary, but I guess I should be today. I could be. Someone should be speaking to the nation about how we're going to move schools forward, and we're not going to keep doing what's comfortable. We're going to truly help the children.
Yeah, and that should be our goal. That should definitely be our goal. You know, I'm gonna remind you guys the segment that she was with Mind, Body, and Soul in January. She mentioned this particular statement. I want you guys that are listening to me, I want you to tell me what you think she meant by it. I'll have her expound on it a little bit more. but she made the statement that parents should get caught reading. Parents should get caught reading. What do you think she meant by that? What do you think she means by parents should get caught reading? I want you guys that are still here with us, throw in your comments, whether you're Instagram, YouTube, or Facebook, throw in your responses to that. I will have her expound a little bit more, but while you're doing that, I'm gonna jump to another question so I can give you a little bit of time just to throw that in. So what do you think she means by parents should get caught reading? That was one of the quotes that Dr. Wiley stated on the January segment that she was on with us. Throw in your comments. So Dr. Wiley, while they're doing that, I'm gonna ask you another question.
Okay.
You have a motto that says readers are leaders.
Mm-hmm.
All right. How does that play into the second year of this pandemic that we're in, remote wise and in person?
When I see, and I have seen a few parents on social media promoting their children, saying my child scored a perfect score on the American College test. Those kinds of things are leading for many children. You know, they see that, but you don't see enough of that. I see so many TikToks, and I wish it was more about a parent had a child there reading, and I got a timer set. Oh, you read that in 1.3 seconds. Excellent. TikTok. Okay. That should be a TikTok right there. Catch these children reading. Oh, I caught my dad and mom sitting down reading a book. I want to see the TikTok on that. I haven't seen one yet. I've been looking for some child to catch their parent reading, because it's going to carry on, you know?
Yeah.
Readers are leaders. Readers are leaders. And you want to think about reading as the leading force behind moving us forward during and after this pandemic. Readers, reading what's happening, knowing, having the background knowledge of whatever career you plan to pursue, having that background knowledge, studying about what it took for a person who was on the path you're trying to get on. Find out about if you're trying to be the next female astronaut, and you're reading about Mae Jemison, I'm sure. So you're finding out things the struggle she went through, and how you can go and move beyond that. And you think about what was his name, with George Washington Carver, to come up with 300 products from the peanut. And when the South was suffering, their cotton stopped growing, and they had to come up with another way to get these crops to make it. George Washington Carver was able to show them that if you switch it up, you plant cotton this year, peanuts the next year, sweet potatoes, and then soybeans. Plant these different crops and watch how your soil is replenished with necessary nutrients. And when you give the ground the nutrients that it needs, it will produce the crop that you want. So this man also came up with, I guess we'll be in a bad situation now because we'll be smelling something terrible. He came up with the soap and washing powder from the peanuts. So that was created from the peanuts, the soap and washing powder. And I was reading this week where an African-American man created the Vicks vapor rub, and we use that in so many homes, and it's been around because he was ill. His 3 children were ill, and his brother-in-law, he didn't want to use his name because his name was too long, but his brother-in-law's last name was Vicks, so that's the name he gave the Vicks vapor rub. But how did I learn that? I learned that from reading. So we need to read because I see so many, the traffic light out there. Everywhere we go, we're looking at the traffic light. But who invented that? A black man. A black man. So read. Reading is so critical. So when you go to your new potential employer and you are so knowledgeable, they have no choice but to hire you because you're the most highly qualified based on your reading expertise. You have been reading.
All right. Ooh, let me see what your comments were to that response. Parents should get caught reading. I see Ava says here, I'm blessed to be able to work remotely, which allows me to travel and work. Dr. Wiley, you have inspired me as a grandparent to be more involved in my grandchildren's education and visit more often to my grandchildren's school to help motivate my grandchildren and encourage my children. That's good stuff right there.
Excellent. I love it.
Hey, cousin Linda, I see you're on. She says, children duplicate what they see.
Mhm.
If parents are reading in front of the children will believe that reading is important and will see parents practicing what they preach. That's good stuff right there. Oh, goodness. Okay, another comment here. Ava says, you are absolutely right, Dr. Wiley. My children are readers because they saw my husband and I reading. We used to laugh watching our 1-year-old mimic us reading the newspaper. Also, reading the Bible was required in our home. I often told my children, if you can read your Bible, you can read anything. I love it. All right, you're on track. Hey, my good friend Randy Pettis, thanks for joining us on today. We're talking with Dr. Viola Wiley. You may have to rewind because we'll be ending soon, but this is our educational spotlight segment on today. And we were focusing on educational healing that is needed in our schools. And Dr. Wiley today took time out to talk with parents and our educators and to help them in this area of reading and why it's so important. This is National Read Across America Day, and I thought it was important to do this segment on today, on this particular day, March 2nd. Now, Dr. Wiley, you had mentioned earlier that you wanted to read towards the end of the show, and I want to give you that time now. You want to read something? Was it regarding the Black males or what?
The black males. This is I don't know if you can see that. Teaching reading to Black adolescent males, closing the achievement gap by Alfred Tatum. He said, I'll just read, cut through here. He said, it is easy for many young Black males to conclude that the world is indifferent to their existence. In the movie Boys in the Hood, Ice Cube, in the role of Doughboy, is given cause to reflect on the poor Black male's invisibility. His brother Ricky, a high school football star, is murdered. The following day, there is no mention of Ricky's death in the newspaper. Doughboy mentions this and concludes either they don't know, don't show, or don't care about what's going on in the hood. The feeling of invisibility is a root cause. Okay, and then there's a short poem. I'll read portion of the poem he has. He wrote this poem about invisibility of the Black males. Does the world care if I exist? Or am I just America's problem? Don't they know I am dying like no other? No, they just fear me. They can't hear me. Well, they just lock me up in juvie and throw away the key. Man, I can't stand for that. I got to fight back. I'm dying anyway. Might as well take some with me. Black, brown, white, don't matter. I'm tired of living in poverty. I get hungry too. You expect me to just watch you eat while you mistreat me in the schools and in the streets. And he has the H word, H-E-L-L. You can't even teach me how to read, Mr. and Mrs. Teacher. Then you flunk me and blame it on me. Some of it's my fault. Probably some is my mama's fault as well. But you are at fault too. And I'll just stop right there, but it's deep, this poem. But it brings, it shines a light on the invisibility of the Black males in the school. So we have to be cautious of a whole generation of young people that we have access to. We can mold them into the people that we want them to be. Now we have time, we have access, and some of us have had plenty of time because the children were at home with us in our houses. We had plenty of time to mold them into the people we want them to be. And the English language is not an easy language to master. But when you're teaching, I suggest, I want to leave a couple of tips right here. You want to teach your vowels and your vowel sounds, and you want to teach the 6 syllable types. The open syllables. If I say the word no, N-O, that's easy. The O is going to carry the sound. Why? Because there's nothing behind the O. That's what you call an open syllable. There's nothing there. So, S-O. But not always. When I put T-O, you're not going to say toe. See what I'm saying? It's going to be different. So the English language is one of the most difficult languages to master, but it is not the most difficult one. It's one of the most difficult one. And listen to this sentence. The farm was used to produce produce. See, that's the same word. P-R-O-D-U-C-E, P-R-O-D-U-C-E. Here's another one. We must polish the Polish furniture. Same spelling. One lowercase, one capital. So you have to consider all this when you're working with students having difficulty with reading. We could lead if he would get the lead out. Lead, L-E-A-D, and lead, L-E-A-D. You see what I'm saying? These are the children. Since there was no time like the present, he thought it was time to present the present. P-R-E-S-E-N-T, P-R-E-S-E-N-T, no difference. I did not object to the object. O-B-J-E-C-T. So students run into these kinds of words and they have problems. So the only way you're going to get students beyond this is to read widely. Read lots of genres of words. Read all kinds of genres in the schools. Read, read, read. Read historical fiction, read nonfiction, read science fiction, read widely. Yeah. Get tons of books, but make sure in your home and in your school, in the classroom library, you have books based on your survey of the students, books they enjoy. Books they enjoy, because you will catch them reading when you didn't tell them to. And that's what you want. You want kids to fall in love with books. You want them to read when you didn't tell them to. That's what really will carry on over into their adulthood and into life. Because this achievement gap we have with girls and boys, girls are always advanced 2 to 3 levels. It's in every country in the world. The gap between girls and boys, males and female reading. But once they get to 19 and above, it equalizes. They are the same. That shows you that in the schools, boys just don't like all of this writing and stuff. Okay? That's what it says. It doesn't mean that they're going to be slow. They're going to get good jobs, own big companies, and just as well as the girls. But it's just that in school, it's boring to them, those long passages, and it's too much. They will love graphs and charts in the school. They will read graphs and charts. You see the boys, they love the graphs and the charts. But the long passages where they have to read 4 or 5 pages and write a response to a question at the end of those 4 or 5 pages, the boys will drop off, and you'll see their level of literacy and fluency will be far below the females and the girls in the classroom. So you want to make sure you have high interest materials at their access and disposal in the classroom, so they can develop a love for books and reading.
Beautiful, beautiful, absolutely wonderful. Wow, we have made it down to the end of another segment, and it has been fulfilling. And I'm sure a lot of you can appreciate Dr. Wiley and all that she has shared with us on today. The educational spotlight segment, and she was teaching literacy and reading to parents and to the educators, the teachers on today. It's a lot of information here. And as she mentioned earlier, you may have to go back and rewind and go over some of the things that she said to apply them. If you look down at the bottom of the Facebook page, her contact information is pinned there to contact Dr. Wiley, whether you're trying to contact her for your children's school or the community that you're in, you're concerned. Maybe you're concerned because of your own children or grandchildren, but make sure you contact her, and you can email her. She said that's the best way to get in contact with her. Email her at Viola, Viola .Wiley, Wiley 34 @gmail.com. So that is her information. And I'm sorry, over here on Instagram, I'm going to put that information as well so that you will be able to contact Dr. Wiley for your benefit. And those of you, thank you all so much for joining us on today. This has been tremendous. I can't say that enough. I have enjoyed it immensely myself. I love Dr. Wiley's energy. I love how she, her passion and compassion that she exemplifies for your children and, the world's children as well. And yeah, I think that somebody has to do it. Somebody has to have that heart.
Yes.
It has to be done because, again, I think who was that? Ava mentioned we want our children to be productive. We want them to be successful, and so we want them to be able to move forward and have everything that they need. So I'm going to make sure that there aren't any other comments here that I need to read before we exit on today. And again, we're going to upload the visual portion of this segment to YouTube once the show ends a little bit later on this evening. Mary Grays, I thank you for coming in. She did say she enjoyed this broadcast. I didn't know you were here, but thank you for coming in. She said, children mimic what they see. Mm-hmm. And she said, the truth has been told in this broadcast. And we as parents and leaders really need to hear this. Our children are as smart as children in any race, but we have to work harder because of how we have been labeled. So true. Ava says, this has been so informational. Thank you, Annette, for bringing such enlightening and informative segments to us. Dr. Wiley, thank you so much for inspiring me to be a better grandparent when it comes to my grandchildren's education. And she says she's going to contact you soon. My cousin Linda says here, where did it go? She is so full of information and passion for our children. I totally agree. It is my hope that she is being heard. Me too. Tracy says, thank you for this awesome informational segment. And yes, again, I thank you as well. This won't be the last that you'll see of Dr. Wiley. I'll here on Get Caught in the Net. I'm just going to say that outright because she loves to, come on and share with us so that we can get this word out. You have something sitting there you want to show me before we end on today?
What can be in the home? Just the home. This can be in the home, and you can teach so many vocabulary, and a lot of reading can be taught just using the globe. The globe.
Yeah. It'll be amazing to see if people even have that in their home. So maybe you guys go to Amazon. I'm sure you can probably purchase one from Amazon. We used to have those in the homes, but nowadays they don't have that stuff very much. So. But that's okay. All right, guys, I'm going to get us out of here on today. Make sure you guys look at my promo for information coming up. You can also go to my website at GetCaughtInANet radio.com. I appreciate it if you stick with us. And there's a lot of things that are coming up. I'm telling you that I am so excited about myself. The Lord is really blessing, and I can't share everything right now, but until then.
Get caught in a net with